I'm Carl. I was a gallery director here in Beacon, and now I work in Woodstock, and I'm an artist. Okay, so the topic of the day is, did I get any good advice from my parents? Well, advice comes in many forms. There's verbal advice, which can be interpreted or misinterpreted. And then there's the advice that a person transmits to you by the way they behave in the world. So I would say, thinking of my father, he was a man of few words.
Ah.
I had an interesting combination of parents. Both were very smart. My father came from the Jewish tradition. He was not practicing, though, and he considered himself to be an agnostic, and he considered Judaism to be an option. So he was a secularist, I guess you would say, and a businessman, but a very moral being and very honorable in how he behaved in the world. So I would say his advice was his life and how he lived it. He was in a terrible business called advertising. So, but he himself was an honorable man. So, for instance, back in the 60s, he would not do cigarette advertising. And he did pro bono anti-cigarette advertising. And his dealings with people were very honorable and straightforward. He didn't manipulate people. He told them what he thought, which didn't always sit well with people, but he didn't express opinions unless he had considered them and felt he had something to say that was worth saying. My mother, on the other hand, was an equally intelligent person, but she was very gregarious and she was very outgoing. So when I would ride with her, say on the train to New York City back in the days where seats faced each other instead of being regimented and facing in one direction, she would engage the people that were across from her in a conversation which was substantial about their lives, and she would be solving problems for them or giving them suggestions or whatever. So I had another example of how being outgoing, extroverted, engage with other people was a good thing. And my mother was not an agnostic, but she expressed her religious belief in music either by singing in the choir or playing the organ. So when I was growing up in Chappaqua, she played organ at the temple, she played organ at the Episcopal Church, she played organ at the Congregational Church, because it was, the music was her connection with spirit. So so again, the advice I got from them was mostly how they lived, and they raised the bar pretty high.